SUV, 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 2 SUVs. Seems like the world can't get enough of SUVs. So, for better or worse, Subaru has decided to call their Outback an SUV. So let's get on with it and see what it's about. For 2018, the Outback's had a sort of a mid-cycle refresh. It's got new grille, new bumpers, new headlights, new wheel design, new door mirrors, new dash layout here in the centre, and a few mechanical bits and pieces that have been fine-tuned too. Now we're driving in the 2.5i Premium, which is kind of the middle of the 3-car range. In New Zealand it costs $49,990. The 2.5 litre Boxer 4-cylinder engine in this car develops 129 kilowatts. That's not very impressive, and neither is 235 kilowatts of peak torque. Subaru don't market it with a 0 to 100k time, but I can tell you it is under 10 seconds. Just. This thing is no rocket sled. But to be fair, this car is not bought by people who are wanting to win stoplight shootouts. This car is bought by people who want to carry themselves and 4 others and a whole bunch of gear in the boot or on the roof in relative comfort, relative economy, and if they come across some challenging road conditions, then the Outback's more than likely to be able to carry them through it. Being a Subaru, it's all-wheel drive, symmetrical all-wheel drive. And this version has X mode, which is Subaru speak for will help you a little bit more when you go off the tarmac. The car has 213 millimeters of ground clearance, which, you know, is just a number, but I've driven this car off-road on a launch event through some pretty slippery clay tracks, and frankly I was very surprised at what the Outback would do and where it would take me. It's got a CVT transmission, and before you all go, CVT, relax. It's not as bad as it used to be. It still has that elasticity, in, even when you're anchored to a particular ratio in manual mode and you've got it set to say 4th, it's never as kind of locked up and connected feeling as a good automatic transmission is. And let's face it, most automatics these days are pretty bloody good. But it's certainly a lot better than it's ever been before. It's quite a inconspicuous part of the car, which is what you want. There's no real flaring or screaming high revs, even under heavy acceleration. The car does a pretty good job of just getting on with the task of accelerating and finding the best ratio that'll do that most efficiently. Now, because it's a Subaru, it's got Eyesight, which is their dual camera driver assist package. And for 2018, it's got a new feature in it. It's got this sort of lane keep assist, which will tremble the steering wheel if the cameras detect that the car is veering outside of the marked lanes. The other thing Eyesight has got now, the cameras are color sensitive, so it can tell brake lights when they're on and when they're off. And that's really useful for its autonomous emergency braking functions, and also for its adaptive cruise control functionality too. It's also better at spotting pedestrians, and it's generally been refined. So this is version 3 of Eyesight. The interior's had a bit of a flossy up for 2018 as well. So it's got a lot of piano black, some nice stitching, got a nice 8-inch screen in the middle here which incorporates Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This premium model has a sunroof and leather upholstery. The seats aren't particularly comfortable, they're very flat, and as a driver you do tend to flop about in this driver's seat more than you would want. Another little Subaru quirk, which I remain kind of unconvinced about, is the center seatbelt on the rear seat. It lives up in the ceiling. If you want to get it down, you have to pull it down and engage it, and then that becomes the shoulder part, I guess, if you like, and then it turns into a lap belt conventionally as you bring it across. But to get it to go back to that position, I have to get the key, pull the key apart to find the actual steel shank, and put that into the little receptor for the seatbelt and unlock it so that it can retract to the ceiling. It's a bit of arsing about, frankly, and I don't know why they can't just do it like everybody else and have the seatbelt anchored off the top of the back seat. Seems sensible. It's pretty quiet. There's not much tyre noise. There's a little bit of wind noise, mainly from the roof rack, I suspect. It's a pretty relaxed place to be. I mean, we're whistling along at 107 kilometres an hour. the CVT is probably in its top gearing and doing 1600 RPM. It feels almost American as a car sometimes. It's kind of not floaty and floppy, but it's definitely got a, I don't know, a pillowy ride, which is okay because it's not a quick car anyway. But for the family driver who wants to take the kids and everybody else out for the weekend and maybe encounter, you know, a mixture of road surfaces and driving conditions like we are today, the Outback's perfectly suited for that. There's no environment that I've driven it in or conditions that I've driven it in when I'd wished I was really in another car, except maybe if I wanted to go a bit faster. I've driven the car at night and these steering responsive LED headlamps are really good. They were jumping up to high beam when they could, they were dropping down to low beam to avoid dazzling other drivers. They were, I could see them moving as I went round corners. So the headlights really, really good. The central navigation unit here now is a TomTom navigation unit. So that's really good. It's got a single entry field for addresses like you find on your smartphone. The car has a pretty good turning circle I've found. I think it's 11 meters, but it feels kind of tighter than that. So even though it's about 4.8 meters long, it's no real challenge to throw around tight streets. The thing that helps that too is it's got a reversing camera, a front view camera, and a camera that's placed on the underneath of the passenger's door mirror. So you get a nice little view of the left-hand wheel as you rub it against the curb. But there's still no audible sonar, and I find that a real bind because you have to look forward at your camera when you're reversing and you don't get any audio cues from when you're approaching something nice and close. It just feels a bit tight actually. Come on Subaru, give us a sonar as well as just a camera on the rear. One thing that the Outback has that is very admirable is a great start-stop system. You know, a lot of them kind of shudder and tremble the whole car when they start back up again. It doesn't happen in this car, and the beauty of it is that you can modulate whether it starts and stops according to brake pedal pressure. So if you pull up at the lights, you can keep the engine running by just keeping the brake lightly on. If you want to stop the car, push the brake pedal a bit harder and the car will stop. Things like that are actually really good thinking, and I like that. What I don't like so much is the fact that if you put your parking brake on, the engine will start again. I think I've finally worked out why the term SUV grates with me so much when it's applied to this vehicle. It's because this thing is far more sensible than an SUV. You know, SUVs are not sensible. They're too big and bulky on the road. They're too naff off the road. But this car isn't like that. It's actually good on the road. It's actually good off the road. So in that respect, maybe it is an SUV. Maybe SUV in this instance stands for sensible utility vehicle, because I think the Outback is actually a very sensible car.